So my dad, he is on the board at Glacier Lakes Energy. He was one of the, I guess if you want to call them forefathers, that started on the board back when they started their equity drive. The CEO, Jim Sawyer, had brought it at the board's attention about being a sponsor. And they had watched a short video that Bill had put together. And at first, the guys on the board, they kind of like, yeah, okay, it's not that big a deal. And the CEO said, but these farmers that we're going to help are our customers.
When we learned about farm rescue, when we looked into it further, we just felt like this was a perfect overlay for our trade area, for our mission. Look, these are the producers that we deal with on a day in and day out basis that because of tragedy or sickness or whatever it is, we feel like our mission is to come to their aid too, because they actually allow us to and provide us the feedstock for our products.
My dad was probably a guy that was maybe on the fence as far as if they should sponsor it or not, but then after he's seen it, he totally swung the other way as far as his whole thought process on the whole organization itself. So it's kind of neat to see like a local organization that like I'm a member of and my family's a member of, see them sponsor something that kind of covers, 5-6 state area. Okay, and then I'd like to thank RDO and Dakota Bank, that's actually my bank I deal with. You had Monsanto, Walmart, they looked like they were a very large sponsor of it. They'll take all the sponsors in general, because without them it wouldn't have happened back when it started, and they help things on their daily to day operation. I stuck a garage up this summer and I was gonna go out and kind of work on the doors, and I had a big spring above the door that was already wound. I was just gonna loosen a couple leg bolts because it had slid down a 1/2 inch. And about the time I loosened the second leg bolt just a little bit, the leg bolts pulled out of the header of the garage, and the center hanger come around and put 2 large gashes in the side of my wrist. At first I was concerned I was going to bleed to death, and then after I had gotten the ambulance and got down there, they informed me that I probably wouldn't have bled to death because it didn't catch the main artery. It had cut my small artery, cut 7 tendons, a nerve, and broke my radius bone. My mom was in contact with Farm Rescue. They were back in contact with us a couple days later. They called within about 4 days and they said they were gonna have a combine here to help with beans. They showed up with 4 volunteers, a combine and a truck. We got one guy, he actually ran our combine. One guy, he ran our grain cart, and the other guy helped my dad with moving augers and setting up the bins and just kind of running around moving things. At first it was kind of almost intimidating, not knowing these guys, but once they showed up and you heard their story and why they wanted, then they all had the farm background experience, and like usually if you put somebody in your machine, you don't know, you're maybe a little at edge. They made you feel comfortable and made you feel like you were still in control, and they done it the same way that you'd do it yourself. They just made you feel very good about yourself and didn't overpower your thought process.
First, we didn't know what they were gonna do and what their accent was and stuff, but after we got to start ride with them and stuff, we started to learn more stuff about them.
And were they Hunter? Were they pretty nice guys, the volunteers?
Yeah, they were really nice, and I'm glad that they were here. We got to learn a lot of stuff and learned what they did.
I'll start with Phil. He ran our combine, a very top shelf individual. It was neat to hear his story, about how he grew up in Wisconsin and was a farm boy, and then he started in the military service, and he told me about his life and how they almost all seemed like they were kind of going back to childhood dreams. It was just like little kids in a sandbox that had the background experience, that had been away from it, and you could all see him want to come back. You had Amo from over north of Chicago, very neat guy, he was just determined. He got in the Farm Rescue Combine on Saturday and asked me if I'd come help him. And he was just like a little kid in there, It had been 50 years since he ran a combine. He told me about the last combine he ran. You had Andy from Washington, very top shelf for a kid, I mean, he knew his stuff about what he was doing, but yet he would stop and listen and learn from you. You had Fred from Utah.
No, Ohio.
Ohio. Phil was from Utah.
Okay, Ohio. He was a very top shelf individual. He ran our grain cart most of the day. On Friday, he actually had to leave on Saturday to go home. But, I mean, they just took our stuff and they treated it like it was their own. And they just went about their merry old way just like it was a normal day around here.
I know Andy from Washington. I know he was an orchard and he raised grapes
And Phil, we learned that in Utah, instead of calling them roosters, they call them cocks. Me and my buddy, we kind of knew that it was going to be fine with Andy because he was experienced and he did it a lot.
Amo from north of Chicago, he was kind of a fun guy to be around. He was a hard worker.
I never ever thought with a deal like this that you'd probably meet people that you'll probably stay in contact with or hope to stay in contact with because you have a lot of things in common with them. And I thought it was neat how they showed my kids to be positive if things are bad, and that there's a positive in all the bad things. I think their combine tally at the end, I think they said it was 275, and then like I said, then Phil, he ran our combine for 2.5 days. That helped me a lot. But I had a lot of fun, just helping the guys and teaching them, and I learned a lot of things from them about how people help people and that there still is good people in this world. Sunday morning, I got a phone call after church. There was a neighbor gal had stopped and seen the semi that was sitting at the grain bins dumping beans, and she had called to see if she could put it on Facebook. And then her caption was that she was proud to be a South Dakotan because of things like this. In fact, she works in town. I had seen her a couple days later. Her first question is who do I call to donate to? And that was just, it was kind of one of them deals that just kind of hit, deep down type deal.